Could you please introduce yourself for the audience?
I'm Commander Dr. V.K. Rai, retired in 2018. And thereafter, I joined as founding program director of IDEX scheme, which is an initiative of Defense Innovation Organization. And thereafter, for a brief period, I worked independently, and then I joined DST as a scientist F in Technology Development Board. So in both these organizations, whether it was DIO or DST, my role was in the capacity of funding innovations, indigenous innovations, and companies, startups, MSMEs, SMEs, which are using indigenous technology to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Wow.
So after having done a brief stint in DST as scientist F, I moved to Zoria, which is the company which is entrusted with bringing indigenization of gas turbine engines, marine gas turbine engines to India. So this is in collaboration with a foreign company. This is the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer.
What are some of your favorite innovations that you have seen?
So rather than my favorite innovations or what I'm really passionate about, I would like to briefly talk about this culture of innovation which is now in our country. So as you know that we are third largest startup ecosystem in the world, and the whole idea of in last decade or so that we have seen a very substantial growth of startup ecosystem in our country. And the idea of promoting all this was that we are also one of the largest defense importers, heavily dependent on imports for our defense. So our Honorable Prime Minister a couple of years back posed this question that why can't we merge our so vibrant ecosystem of startups that we have and our armed forces together so that we can bring in-house innovations and get them into armed forces to support innovations there. And that idea clicked, and that was the start point of IDEX scheme under Defense Innovation Organization. I was a member of jury from IIM Ahmedabad CIE incubator for selecting the startups under this scheme. And thereafter, there was a requirement to handle this program, and I joined as this funding program director and took up getting all the paperwork and all the scheme up and running. But now coming back to where were we before this? So our Indian startup ecosystem or entrepreneurial ventures, they are pretty old, and they are in fact more than 100 years old. And today this event which IIT Tirupati has organized, I'm so glad that it's been organized with the collaboration with Indian Navy, because one of the earliest entrepreneurial ventures that we can that are recorded in history of India are from shipping side. They started with shipping, and if you've heard of Mr. VOC Pillai, VO Chidambaram Pillai, he was working in jute mills. He was a barrister by profession, and the conditions of workers there was not good. He revolted against it. This was, I think, around 1906, that old. And eventually he left that, and he found an opportunity that at that point of time from Tuticorin to Colombo, there used to be a monopoly of a British ship that was called British India Shipping and Steam and Navigation Company. So he started a parallel company similar to it. He rented out, hired a ship, foreign ship, and he called it Swadeshi Steam and Navigation Company, SSNC. And this company gave a tough fight to British, and slowly British, they had an edge over it. India was being ruled by them. So what they did was they started imposing a lot of restrictions on this. Now here is, we find today in management jargon, we read about go-to-market strategy, we talk about pivot, we talk about disruptions. All these concepts, we talk about crowdfunding now. All these concepts were available that time. They were used. Only thing is that we did not, being a kind of not a developed country, underdeveloped country, in fact, being ruled by British, a colonial country, unfortunately, we could not propagate our ideas, we could not formalize our ideas, and these sectors still remained quite quite localized within few places, few parts of India. And that's how you find that our Jaljeera came repackaged as Virgin Mojito, and now we feel so proud of it. We do not realize that probably Jaljeera was invented much before Mojito came in. But that's how it happened, that a lot of Indian things, Indian actions, Indian entrepreneurial system, they got formalized by developed countries, and then they repackaged it and sold it back to us. So what I wanted to mention about this Swadeshi shipping company, that moment British started putting restrictions on us, they switched over to cargo. There was a point of time when British made it free of cost. To take her into Colombo, you could travel free of cost. And along with that, every passenger who used to travel with them, they used to give an umbrella free. Okay. Now, in such condition where a company has deep pockets and another company, Indian company, which is just trying to come up, there was no way that they could have stood any chance of winning against the British company. But the patriotic fervor that time was so much amongst people that they still continued, despite having 1 rupee per travel, they still continued to travel in Mr. V.O.C. Pillai's ship. However, later British realized that this is not working, so they imposed a lot of restriction on people traveling. So this guy changed over to cargo, and so this is, see how we pivot. Go-to-market strategy was on cost basis. Can we make it cheaper? Realize that British have made it absolutely free plus umbrella free. So market-wise, we could not compete. Then they realized that we can pivot and we can make it for supply of goods. Then they started putting a lot of restrictions on supply of goods, their quality controls and all, and they rejected a lot of items. And in some flimsy reason, Mr. Pillai was arrested. And then started the concept of crowdsourcing. People pulled in money. They collected the money to fund Swadeshi movement by Gandhiji. They pulled in the money, and about 5,000 rupees that time was pulled in and given to get Mr. Pillai released from the prison and also to revive this company. So, but it's a sad end. Eventually in 1911, the company, our Swadeshi company got liquidated. But one thing is clear, that all these things, they gave a good boost to our Indian patriotism and to our culture of innovation, culture of developing a healthy competition in business. And there were a lot of things which now others are teaching in management colleges, and we are learning from Cambridge and Harvard. These things existed there. So the idea of crowdsourcing, GTM, competing on a certain strategy. So all these existed at that point of time. Again, similar to it, later on, Vinoba Bhave started the Charkha call for proposal, open call for proposal for Charkha, and there was a, so that's all recorded history. Now I move just 100 years ahead. Why this 100 years? In between, India got independent, and then we got busy with our own stuff, setting up our government, setting up various ministries. Now again, these innovations and these ventures, entrepreneurial ventures, stayed in pockets and silos, not very widely publicized. The startup system culture grew slightly, but not much is recorded in history how we went on. Although there was a development, Khadi, our own indigenous Khadi Udyog, and Swadeshi, Namak, and all that. What Gandhi started, a lot of things took some shape, but really did not strengthen our startup ecosystem to that extent. Now I directly come to the first decade of 2K. So mid of 2010, around 2014, 2015, we realized that our startup ecosystem is quite vibrant. is third largest in the world, and our defense is quite dependent on imports. And then there was a decision to marry these two. Then we started this scheme of Defense Innovation Organization. Parallelly, we also had DRDO, which has pitched in. DRDO had a scheme called Technology Development Fund, which later on started funding up to 10 crores in form of grant in aid. And they wanted innovations, indigenous innovations to get infused into armed forces. Subsequently, DRDO moved on to increase the funding availability up to 50 crores, 50. And presently, TDF has 50 crores of grant in aid available for innovations, generally which are at TRL 7 or 8 or which are about to get commercialized. They provide this funding support for bringing innovation to armed forces. So I must say it's a pretty good time for startups, and good that IIT Tirupati and the Technology Innovation Hub of Tirupati conceptualized to have this seminar today. And I'm happy, personally very happy, because it's a collaboration with Navy. I'm ex-Navy person, and I'm passionate about entrepreneurial ventures, passionate about startup ecosystem. And that's where I have, after retirement from service, that's where I have mainly stayed, and that's what I have done. Coming to this topic that has been chosen, underwater navigation, this is a very niche area and not much capability exists in this domain as far as world over is concerned. So we'll talk more about what are the possibilities of innovations in this sector, as well as financial support from the government during my talk today.
Absolutely. We'll attach that video and to the link of the full talk from today. Sir, next question to you is, you mentioned indigenous innovations. It was great to know about the 1906 innovation that you mentioned. Is there something that is from India only, like UPI we talk about? I think it's Aadhaar, something grown and innovated, and which is much better than anything else in the world. Any other innovations like that from India that you have seen?
There are quite a bit, but like I said, that a lot of things we have failed to capitalize on that. We have failed to put an IP on it. We failed to get a patent for that. We failed to register them as our proprietary things. So because of those reasons, the advanced countries were way ahead in this idea. They came here, they learned things from here, they learned from our books. If you see about metallurgy and all, there are certain metals that melt, that have a very, when you try to talk of metallurgy and specific alloys, there are certain very narrow zones of temperature in which the metal gets converted from solid to liquid and then immediately vaporizes or gets oxidized. So there are many such innovations which are known to our forefathers, grandfathers before that. They have been using it conventionally, but never tried to record this officially and put it on paper or try to have a patent over it. So you talk about Shushut, talk about the operations that they could do on brain and on our nerves. That kind of thing is not even heard of today, but this all existed. There are documentary evidences to showcase this entire thing in our books. But unfortunately, we have lagged in trying to formalize that and put it on paper and take a patent for it.
So we were flourishing in innovations at that time. Then
Yes.
we went through a long years of
Definitely.
gulami.
Yes.
That
So
might have stopped the innovation. Now, do you think it's the right time for us to flourish again?
Like the proverb, there's a proverb which says that unless lions learn to write books, a book will always try to promote the hunter, something like that. So it has been actually the same case with us. So unless a colonial country learns to start talking vociferously about its own culture, about its own sentiments, about the way it has its own history, If you don't do that, you'll always be taught history, and that will be the version of British or the ruler who's ruling the particular country. So unfortunately, that is what has happened. We are coming out of it, and it's a very, very positive change, and it's a definite change, and it's going to, we are, I must say, in a very, very, we are in changing times, where we are very soon going to see the effect of the self-belief, what we are going through now.
Wonderful. You mentioned a lot of changes have happened after government's policy of IODEX. IDEX. So can you share a couple of stories or one story after the implementation of IDEX?
So, see, before, as a civilian, for example, since I was handling IDEX, I was ex-armed forces person. So I understand the concern of how the startups who were purely from civil background, how they used to feel. So often their concern was that, sir, we'll never get an entry into armed forces establishment. वो सामने पुलिस रहती है, वो आर्मी के लोग रहते हैं, गन्स के साथ रहते हैं. They used to occasionally say that probably वो तो गोली मार देंगे, that kind of thing. So there was so much of inhibition amongst people to approach army establishments or armed forces establishments. So I must say that we were definitely not accessible to each and everyone. And for a company with commercial interest, certainly not, because there is a procedure for any company to get into armed forces to supply a particular item. But these legacy systems, the way our procedures were, a call for proposal, then a pre-bid meeting, then a bidding process, and then deciding the L1 vendor, and thereafter eventually going through a number of negotiations with the L1 vendor and placing the order, and then finally fructifying. So this whole thing used to take a lot of time, and there was a need to provide a shorter runway to a company or to a startup to infuse that innovation into armed forces, bring it fast to the table. Either deliver or fail fast, so that we can immediately move on.
Deliver or fail fast.
Yeah. So do not linger around with a problem statement. If a problem statement is given, requirement is given, either quickly deliver or quickly fail, so that we can move on. We can learn from this failure and improvise our problem statement, make it more robust, and thereafter reissue with those changes. So that was the aim. So the learning has been that yes, now with this scheme, we have made armed forces gates open to startups, open to ideas, and also some of the startups which are making things which are of dual use, and they have been predominantly making it for civil use, but later they realized that this can also be brought into armed forces. Even Army needs it, or Air Force, Navy, they also need it. In that case, there's an option for open challenge, under which is a suo motu proposal. You can apply directly to that particular service, and they will be happy to get you considered through a high-powered selection committee. And if selected, the funding process, just like normal scheme, it would start.
For a startup venture right now, they don't need to fear about bullets at the gate of the naval officer.
No, never. That fear was earlier also not there. From ex-serviceman point of view, I can say that. But yes.
How is the process now?
It's very, very streamlined. So now what is there, that for every startup, every problem statement, there is a nodal officer attached from that particular service, who is very, very closely tied up with the startup. He's guiding them, mentoring them. And in case of any deviation in the product line or in the process, he informs the startup that this is the product we want, and this deviation would not be in line with the end result that we would require. So it's quite well now.
So I assume it's very easy to apply, just going on the website and application is done.
Yes, definitely. So I'm not talking about just armed forces. Even you talk about the Ministry of Science and Technology through DST, they have number of schemes funding you right from conceptualization stage, from your ideation, proof of concept, to product building, to product testing, field trials, and to commercialization of your product. This entire chain from your TRL 1 to 9, everything is getting funded by some agency or the other under DST. So for example, you take DST Nidhi scheme. So Nidhi is a national initiative for development and harnessing innovations. Under this scheme, they provide you 10 lakhs of grant money to simply establish your proof of concept. That you have a concept in mind. So this is what we call mind to market strategy.
Wow.
So they are building up on, through Nidhi, they are funding you to establish a proof of concept. They have separate funding schemes for the process building to reach from TRL 2 or 3, move on to, from ideation to move on to say field testing. And moment you are at field trial stage, that is TRL 7 or 8, there is another funding scheme available where you can get grants up to even 200 or 300 crores, which is required as per the policy laid down in that scheme through Technology Development Board, TDB.
Wow. So interesting that
yes.
even right from the conceptualization, you can approach
Yes.
the government and get funding.
This what whenever I used to go to various academia for presentation on these schemes, this is what I used to call them womb to tomb funding being provided. Right from womb to tomb, you are being covered by the government schemes somewhere or the other. You take example of Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Through DPIIT, they fund, they have a scheme called Startup India Seed Fund Scheme, SISFS. Through this scheme, they fund up to 50 lakhs. So where now, now everything that is left for the startup is to accelerate. There's no other option. Either deliver or die. Because from government side, I think there couldn't have been a better opportunity for startups than what it is presently. You talk about DRDO, they are providing the labs support, whatever facilities are there with DRDO labs, they provide you to productionize your idea. You talk about DST, they have got various units from where they are supporting in terms of mentoring. These academias, all the academia, IITs, they have one or the other incubator with them, technology innovation hubs with them. Their role is to catch that particular professor who is good in that particular subject, get them on board. For example, today also we have IIT Delhi professor taking a session here. We have IIT Tirupati's professor taking sessions. You have other experts from government side who've worked with the government. You have serving officers from Indian Navy who've taken sessions. What else can we ask for?
Wow.
So government, academia, industry, a perfect collaboration. There's no way other than to succeed. There's no other outlet.
From womb to tomb and take hand-holding to the success or failure
Yes,
and learning from there and
definitely.
going ahead.
Definitely, yes.
So what are the strings attached?
Oh, there are no strings attached. The unfortunate part is that if I were a startup, I want everything to be solved in a platter. Okay, somebody should tell me where to take funds from. Somebody should, and the worst part is that some of the startups are even coming to seek ideas from these events. Yeah, I'm thinking of scouting for some ideas. So these are the strings where people are not capable, but kuch to karna hai. But neither concept is clear in their mind what to do. Only when you are clear about what you want to deliver, only when you are clear about how the funding would come, only when you are clear about how you want to raise the money, only when you are convinced about the idea yourself that you will be able to generate interest of VCs in your project.
Amazing.
That's the string.
One question on a personal level. From your so many years of diverse experience, can you share a story of a difficult challenge you had to overcome and how did you overcome that?
See, I think for most of the people who do research or PhD scholars, I think for most of them the biggest challenge is कि PhD खत्म हो जाए जल्दी से, and that has been even my struggle as well. So while I was doing my PhD, I was on study leave. I was already serving in Navy. I had done about more than 10 years of service, and I was in IIT and IIT Kharagpur. And the topic was, see, I'm a mechanical or a marine engineer. I had done my BTech in marine engineering, MTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Kharagpur. And now I was getting into PhD in advanced signal processing, which is more of electrical side. And yes, that was very demanding for me. That was very challenging to understand new concepts, new ideas, and that's how I am now talking about underwater domain and talking about underwater navigation and innovations in underwater. So that has been one personal front. It's been one big struggle for me to have taken up a topic which was quite diverse from my core area.
Diverse from the core area, and also after you're serving, you had a stable, steady
Yes,
job, and
that's
then you
true.
came into research.
That's true. That's true.
So how are things at the family front?
So family front, like my friends, they used to say that I had just got married when I came for MTech, and I did my MTech, and thereafter I continued PhD. So like my colleagues used to say that I've got married to books and not to a lady. So my wife is a doctor, she's a dentist. Thankfully, during my studies period, she was also doing her practice and some internship, and also we were able to manage separately. But it's been tough. Personal front, yes, is definitely tough.
But still you can do it. That's an example
Yes,
from
definitely.
you.
Why not? Why not?
What are you excited about in the future?
So I'm really excited about seeing dependency of the world on India. They should look up to us for technological advancement. For any advanced technology, they should look up to us, and that's something that I want to live to see.
Wow. Final words for the audience and startup ecosystem in particular.
Now, for the startups, I would like to say one thing. Maybe most of them may not agree. No innovation can be done if you are dependent on government for funding. It's a very strong statement that I personally feel I'm making. First of all, you have to be very convinced about your idea. And if you are convinced about the idea, there'll be no dearth of people willing to fund you. So I have found that most of the startups which are very convinced about their idea, they did not talk about funding support. And things don't get stuck because of funding support, I must tell you. Okay, there are hundreds of opportunities here for supporting a startup which is actually on the rise, which is totally innovative, which is for a larger social cause, and which is convinced about its idea itself first. So that's my one suggestion to startups. Be convinced about your idea. If you're not convinced, then change your idea. Change to that domain where you are convinced about this idea that yes, this will succeed no matter what. And if that is the conviction level that you have, I can tell you there'll be hundreds of organizations, companies, VCs, angel investors who will be willing to fund your idea.